Thank you. Welcome to the Design Review Committee meeting. This meeting of the Design Review Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of the emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Design Review Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Design Review Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. And then I'll do a roll call to open the meeting. And if you can just say aye. Diana?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
And Tom?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Okay. So all the members are available and here at the meeting, and we'll open the meeting. And so we're going to be seeing the applicant for 1 Lyman. And Jim, if you can bring them on, we can start the meeting.
Michelle, as they're coming on, I just went through the minutes, and the you had summarized at the end of the March 30th meeting that you were looking for, the Design Review Committee was looking for more detailed renderings on the recessed part of the windows, details and samples of building materials, which have arrived, more detail on the glazing of the windows. There was some discussion about the entryway being revised a little bit, and you were looking for the loading dock to be included on the building elevations, and to verify the lighting.
Okay.
Recuse myself from this.
Okay. Yeah, just make it on the minutes that Dave Varon is recusing himself from the meeting.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we do have a list of some of these smaller items that, so we have Jeff on, Vito on, Alok on, and then Marshall on. And Dave is representing the client for the landscaping. So welcome back. So Vito, do you want to address those items that Kathy just listed? And then we can go and also talk about the landscaping. Let's hold the landscaping towards the end and just take care of these smaller items here.
Okay. When I got in, Kathy was halfway through, so I missed the site plan portion.
Actually, it's all about the building.
Oh, okay. I thought I missed it.
I think the only site plan one was, was lighting.
Okay.
To verify the lighting.
Yep.
But I think everything else really has to do with the building.
Okay, that's good. I have a 8:25 about I gotta get out. So if there's any site plan, I can go through that, but it doesn't seem to be.
Okay.
So I can jump in and try to take some of the building items, if that's okay, Kathy?
Yeah, please go. Yeah.
Okay, so with regards to the building items, I may not go exactly in order, so if I miss any, just please repeat the questions. But as far as the building goes, along the side elevation that faces the parking lot, we added metal wood look panels to break up the long facade. That was one of the issues that was raised. And we did entertain trying to do some kind of landscape along the, I don't know if you have the updated renderings. Have those been provided?
Yeah, they should be in there. I can share my screen if you need, but I won't have it up for too long.
Yeah, we can get through this. I mean, on my side, at least pretty quickly. So, Vito, if you don't mind.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So there's the revised elevation facing the parking, and we did, Dave and I looked at trying to add, creepers or some kind of, vertical green wall that could do the same thing and break up the facade. But we felt the maintenance in the winter here with, the plants just not looking healthy and beautiful during, half the year, probably didn't make a lot of sense. So we went back to the suggestion to break up the facade using the wood look metal panels. We changed the material color for the canopy from a wood look metal panel to more of a aluminum metal panel, and revised the supports for the canopy so that they did not interfere with the windows above. Again, those will all be, reviewed by a structural engineer, and we'll make tweaks to make sure that the concept here about the supports going into solid wall versus a window mullion or something like that will be maintained. We kept the entry as designed. Jeff and I spoke about the concept of potentially recessing it, and although there's merit to that, we like the look of this better, and that's what we would like to stick with. And we will resolve any issues regarding wind uplift and snow loads and drainage from the canopy, through design. The signage that you see on the building will not be illuminated. That Jeff is happy with that just being, it will be proud of the building by an inch or two on standoffs. It won't be painted onto the facade or anything like that, but it will not be illuminated. We will illuminate the freestanding monument sign, which is at the entry as you enter the parking lot, the one there, and that monument sign will have the address of the building as well. And so we're allowed something in the range of 6 square feet for the address, so that sign may get just a little bit higher to accommodate the address as well as the landscaping below. I did recess the punched windows into the facade. That has been done to increase the sciography and the shading, etc. Although on this north facade, we may not get a ton, but they're recessed back by a few inches so the sills are not protruding out. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else on the changes to the facade. I think that was it. And I did provide material samples. These are the material samples that, are our schematic design samples as we go through design development and look at, the detailing of the facade, et cetera. We may entertain other companies, et cetera, but the concept will remain the same. And I think that's all for the changes to the design of the facade.
We see the other elevations.
I think those are all of them.
So the actual loading dock is not represented.
Right. It would be a door right in there.
You know what size door?
I don't know if they ever picked a size door, but I think it was going to be a single door rather than double, though. Oh, like, I don't know if you had a size or roughly. It's just going to be one single door, though. It's not a double wide door either, right?
Right. I think it was just an 8x10. In the original renderings I'd done, we had 2 doors side by side. I know that changed.
Yep.
And yes, that hasn't been redone.
Yeah. But as a one door, it wouldn't be a double wide door. It'd just be one single
Right, it's just enough to back a truck up to it. So it'd be an 8-foot wide, standard 8-foot wide, loading 10-foot high.
Yep.
I can't imagine Jeff needs anything different, but Jeff's on the call. Jeff, an 8-foot wide by 10-foot high door is all we need, correct?
Jeff's on mute.
Okay. But that would be a standard size, and that's all.
Yes, I would say the docking pool will close to the right edge on the photo,
Right
so it will be easy to back up when the exit to the Lyman Street.
Mhm.
I think we should
But
see
yeah, the size
the door.
a lot could give seems to be fine.
I think we need to see the door that's being used there, because that is a part of the facade that people are going to see when they're driving past, and it's not hidden by the trees so much. So I don't know if there's a product number or.
We haven't got that far to select anything, but we can certainly provide that. I mean, that's easy enough to do.
I mean, it's the most sort of industrial piece of the entire facade. So I think that it would be worth looking at. In terms of what you're describing, I mean, the size and location is fine.
So this would be more like a garage door. It'll be the sill of the loading dock door will be at the slab elevation, there's not a 3 or 4 foot high raised loading dock condition.
Could you describe the elevation at this joint? According to my modeling, the grade here is lower than the
Right.
slab by about the odd 3 feet that you need to back a truck up, so that you're fairly level with the
Right.
with the first
Yeah, the door
floor.
would be elevated up.
All right, so that's not represented in any of these drawings. There's no
That-
grade change
the
represented.
door should be shown. It would be right here.
Okay.
And then what would be beneath it with that grade change? Are the panels going to come all the way down, or is that going to be concrete?
So what you're seeing there in that back facade along that little L-shaped or bent part of the wall, that's CMU block. That's the block that we are using kind of as the skin of the building, and then accenting with the metal panels around primarily the front and the sides. But the back, that part of it would just be your CMU block, and your loading dock would sit in the CMU block. I mean, I don't want to do metal panel and stuff too close to the loading. That's where the most chances of damaging the metal is, and it's the right material. It's hardy. It's split face, so it looks nicer than what you're seeing in this rendering. If you even look at the samples that I provided, I know that everybody's sitting at home perhaps, so the samples went to Kathy, but it's what you see. You'll see CMU block used in retail and post offices, and your local fire station. I mean, it's used everywhere, as you know, and I think it's the right product to put around the back of the building here. We're going to have some.
So what is the dark gray representing then at the base there? Because I'm just wondering, if the grade falls away, are you still going to have the same block all the way to the?
I think what you're seeing there is just a shadow line.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's just, the shadow that goes around.
The dark gray, but the one above that.
Oh,
Right, the little line above that you're seeing is probably your foundation, which I have to. We had represented cladding the foundation around where it was exposed with either again the split face CMU block or a stone cladding.
Okay, that was that's really the crux of my question. Is the foundation going to maintain the horizontal that we see, and then as the drive comes down, are you going to have 3 feet of foundation exposed?
You will have 3 feet of foundation exposed, and we would clad it to match the building, or provide just a color change, so it provides its own little band below the CMU block. because it's falling off from the front entry, it falls off towards the corner and then further falls off as you come all the way down towards the corner, which is the entry for the loading. And by the time you get to the loading, it falls off to about the 3 feet that you need to back up a truck to the first floor level.
Yep.
So there will also be some bollards to direct traffic towards the loading dock?
I don't know if we'd have actual bollards back there.
I think typically you would have a bumper up against the building, so the
Right.
truck would go and back up against. Typically you'd have bollards if you're going to have some other piece of equipment or a stair or something else adjacent to it to ensure the safety of those features. There is an egress stair. So the corner that you're looking at on the right side, down that facade, we're going to have an egress stair. Once we design the racking, etc., we'll find the right spot for it. But there'll be an egress stair out the back of the building. That should not affect the loading. They're on two separate facades, and the truck will never back there. So I don't think we need bollards to protect that stair. So I don't foresee a bunch of bollards here for any reason.
Well, I agree with Diana. We really need to see this elevation and how it's going to appear from Lyman Street.
We can provide that.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think it looks great. I think this will probably be the best looking building in the industrial district and probably better looking than most of the residential structures in the area. So well done.
Thank you, Tom. It was good to have all your input, and I hope at the end of the day everybody's happy with it, and it provides a great place for Jeff to conduct his business, and the residences across the street feel that at the very least they've got something that looks perhaps like a town building versus a warehouse building adjacent to them. Which, I mean, if my neighborhood's any example, there are residences across post offices and things like that all the time. So hopefully this is at least as nice.
Now, did we address the lighting that Kathy had mentioned that was outstanding?
The lighting was shown on the site plans. So we showed all the locations, and there was an intensity plan previously submitted. So we showed all the poles,
Okay.
the wall packs.
Okay.
And was the photometric plan that was originally submitted affected by any of the changes that have been made?
No,
Okay.
because all the layout basically stays the same.
So Vito, I know that you're going to have to go shortly, and I just wanted to make sure, do any other board members, committee members have any questions, so that Vito's going to have to, we'll go on to landscaping, but anything that you've seen here, does anyone have anything before voting? Any questions? I mean, we did discuss that we need to see the loading dock and the actual door that they're going to place there. I don't know if that's going to require another meeting or whether or not they can just submit it. But any other questions, so that I know that, being sensitive to Vito's time, he does need to leave. Yeah. Diana, are you all set?
I would like to see that elevation in some form. I don't know
Okay.
if the best way for that to happen, but
Okay. And Tom, are you all set?
Yeah, I just want to mention that they did a very good presentation to the planning board regarding the frequency of deliveries. And so if anybody interested in, the daily UPS delivery in the monthly or bi-monthly tractor trailer. So it's a very modest impact in terms of traffic.
Yeah, I agree. And then Lisa, any feedback? Lisa, you're on mute.
I think the presentation was beautifully done and the renditions are top notch. I really appreciate being able to see it all in the way that they put it together.
Do you have any questions for the applicant at all
No, I don't.
for making decisions? Okay. So Vito, it looks like we're all set on your end with any of the site plan questions. I know that you have to leave, so I want to be sensitive to that.
Okay,
And then
thank you.
will
Thank you
just,
for that.
you're welcome. And we'll just segue over to talk about landscaping, and then the board will decide this one open question, which was about the elevation of the door. We'll have to decide on how to proceed with doing that. So I know, Vito, you have to sign off. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vito.
And so, yeah, we're gonna go over to landscaping. Now, I sit on the design review as the planning board member. I listen to the feedback, and it seemed like the board we had two options for landscaping. One was to keep to create a healthy landscaping buffer with all of the trees. I think at one time we had 2 or 3 rows of trees, which almost created a nice landscaping buffer from the street and then to the building. Or some of the board members thought, well, do we need that many? Should we just reduce half of them inside and show some of the aesthetics of the building? We did hear from the abutting resident across the street. It was Ann and Stephen. Ann spoke at the meeting, and when we had public comments, she indicated that she preferred the more denser version of several trees. I, as chair, sent an email out to her and have not heard back from her. I was wondering if the applicant was able to reach out to that neighboring abutter and get any feedback on the landscape, because that seemed to be a really critical issue for them.
So Michelle, I reached Anne on the second day after the planning board meeting. I never heard back from her.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll still waiting for her to get back to us for further discussion.
Okay. There was another abutter who spoke. They actually seemed to like, they were further down the street, possibly as much as a quarter mile away, but they seem to like the density as well. So I was wondering if the board could have a discussion about this. I know that Diana and Tom, I think at the last time, and Lisa as well, you can weigh in, all three of you. Do you have a preference on the two which we were talked about, less trees and some visual aspects of the building, or just more trees like Dave had presented in the beginning, where we had 3 rows of very mature trees to create that really solid landscape buffer? I was wondering your feedback on the response from the direct abutter.
Well, I prefer the current landscape design that's presented with the landscaping integrated with the patterns of the wall materials of the building. So I think that Dave and Alok has coordinated their designs together. I like the variety of color, the different varietals he's mixed in. The structure of it'll really create a nice open space between the building and the outer trees. So it'll feel like a room-like almost. And I appreciate that. And no, I think the landscape design is fine.
Okay. Lisa, do you have feedback?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have heard for a while from several residents that they are very much looking forward to keeping the dense trees and not going down to so much visual through that. Although I agree with Tom that the plantings and the integration is lovely, I think that at the very least, you've heard from them and they've attended meetings. And I think that having the tree buffer, which started out and was something that was important to them, I believe we should continue. And if nothing else, then if there were 3 rows and I see 1 row here, then I would say that at least to do 2 rows and keep the integrated plantings against the building as well.
And Diana?
I am okay with the landscape as it's currently designed. I actually think that it will feel denser than, one would think. And I think that the integration with the building is obviously key, but I think what is shown will also produce the desired effect.
Okay. So what I see here is that, creating that buffer between residential and industrial is really coming out in a lot of comments through the residents of the community. How do you do that in a natural way so that you can transition from, one zoning to the other zoning? I am more in favor of creating the density because I feel like you need to create that buffer. However, I would like to get a little bit more feedback. I'd like to hear, I feel like we have one open item here, which is the elevation of the door that maybe the applicant should come back and discuss, because that is a little bit of an open area that we also heard, we heard back from the planning board members, and we also heard back from the residents of the community. So that's sort of an open item that we need to close on that and make sure that we're all set on that. But also the way that it's standing now, I just feel like we're hearing a lot of creating a solid buffer as you transition from one zoning, which is residential, to industrial. And how do you do that? And I do think, when I look at it, and I'm looking at it right now, it's a striking building. It looks nice. It looks like even if it was an office park. But what we're hearing a lot from the residential community, and you want to get almost, get both sides on board so you can move this project forward and get a positive vote for you, the planning board, is how do we address that one issue of that transition? So while I see that aesthetically it looks great now, I feel like the community is saying we need a more solid buffer, right? So that when you're driving down the street, maybe you'd see a small segment of the building, but not as much. So originally when we presented it, or Dave presented it as a landscaping plan, it had 3 rows. I do agree when these trees grow, they can almost grow into each other. And Dave, maybe you can give feedback on that. I'm wondering if 3 was maybe too much. Do we go to 2+ or do we go to 1+? But we get a little more density there. Because I think this may be something that's going to maybe hold you back or be a problem with the members of the planning board. I'm just being honest on what I'm hearing from that conversations that were happening at our last planning board meeting. So it's worthwhile taking this time to do this, as well as a loading dock. Those seem to be the 2 issues that were coming out of that meeting that people really wanted to address. Other than that, I think everything looks great.
I would request that, sorry, Tom. I hear that some people are hearing a lot from the community. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
So any communications that can be forward, I would appreciate that.
Yeah. And I want to clarify, you're right, Diana. It's not from the entire community. We're talking about direct abutters, or actually there's one direct abutter, and then there's a ton of open space, and then there's a neighborhood behind there. So that's really the people who've come to the meetings and spoken.
Okay.
About specifically on this project that we've, or received letters from.
Okay.
So thank you for correcting me. You're right. It's not the entire community. It was just a small group of people who live nearby this building.
I guess for me, it's a little bit challenging. Like, I drove down Lyman yesterday and I looked at the landscape specifically, and, there are houses on one side, obviously, and then there's industrial on the other side. I think that this building and this landscape is a significant upgrade relative to what you find on the rest of Lyman in the industrial district. So in that way, I guess yesterday I was thinking, wow, this is going to look much better, than what people currently have across from them in terms of the existing industrial sites. So I'm happy to keep considering this, and I would welcome the opportunity to hear what the residents are saying. But I think that it is, as I said, a significantly better looking building and landscaping plan than what the rest of Lyman has.
And I agree with you. I actually think if you were to bring this out to the public, they'd almost think that it was an office building, So
Michelle, is the So there's, two members are in favor and satisfied with this landscaping plan. And two members, I believe, are looking for additional trees. But specifically, is it on the Lyman Street side?
So I think it's only on the Lyman Street side, and maybe Dave, if you can weigh in on this. We're already getting mature trees. What I'm looking at now, these are mature trees. Are they going to grow into each other as they grow even more? And if you were to put a second or a third row, would you just be having trees growing into each other and then eventually dying out? I mean, are you creating an unintended consequences because you have too many trees for such a small area?
Well, technically, you already have two rows right here. You have one
You do.
row along the street, and you have one along the building.
Yeah.
Right now, it's visually very appealing where you have the white space of the building, a tree, and then forward the trees along the street. You set up the positive and negative space. This is very stunning as it is right now. If we start adding something else into it, it starts looking like you take a bunch of change and you're just throwing it on a paper, and it's not going to read well, both from plan view and from what I call this as section elevation. It's just not going to read well. We'd have to kind of go with a redesign and start trying to do something else. So a third row it's not necessarily an answer. It's going to be having to recreate. This is very appealing as is. During that meeting, the folks across the street said, hey, they have an objectional view. I want to know what that objectional view is from their sunroom. So, hey, let's find out what it is and let's address it and see what we can do and block it. But that's one person. So the other plan that we originally did wasn't 3 rows either. It was just a denser planting against the building and then still another row against Lyman Street. And it was more blocking the building completely. So it's just a different approach. Both will eventually, the building is going to, both plans, the building is eventually, you're not going to see it. And I do agree with Diana where ultimately, the building is going to, in essence, not disappear, but it's going to be the best building in the entire, on all of Lyman Street, and I'm going to say Bartlett too. Either plan we go. So it's just, which way do you want to go?
Dave, is there any concern about the grass? If we have too many trees, do we end up with, the areas under the trees not growing grass well and having a bad product there?
Eventually, if we go, 3 rows and we're starting to put too much in there, yes. We're going to have a shade issue down the line, 20 years from now, 15, 20.
Also, I think if by this spacing, you allow the natural form of the tree species to manifest and not be crowded in and fighting for, sunlight or moisture, et cetera. And you will be allowed to appreciate the form of the trees itself. And I think it works well with the facade, and the request for density, I think, was related more to the earlier building designs where we hadn't articulated the facade more. So I think we've got a nice balance of architecture and landscaping now. And I think more trees would muddy the water, so to speak.
I agree. I mean, before the first one was more of I'll call it a Walt Disney World approach where we have a box and we have to hide the box.
Right.
And that's all we did at Walt Disney was hide the box. This is the box is
beyond
tight.
that. Yes, I think that's an old discussion. I think where it is now is a good balance between the architecture and the landscaping.
And I agree.
Yeah, so I agree. And I like that comment that you made, Tom, which Dave verified as well, which is as they grow out, you have to allow space for them to grow. And that would be my concern if you're going to add more, which is what I asked. So my concern is that, okay, so let's back up a little bit. We have this question on the elevation of the door. Does the board feel they need to meet to discuss and see more about the elevation of that door, the door on the building, and the visual of that loading dock area from Lyman Street? Do we need to meet again before we send this? And I don't believe they're off to the planning board until mid-May. So we have time. So that's a question to the board, is whether or not they feel like we want to meet again to just wrap up the loading dock. And the reason I'm saying that, if we do, I feel like this might give opportunity to reach out again to the abutting property owner, because there is just one direct abutting property owner, and to ask her and her husband, Stephen, to make sure they've seen this rendering, because they seem to go back in their comments to the first rendering, and I'm not sure whether they've seen all the detail in the building that has been done. So that's what I would want to make sure a discussion has happened.
And
And
Kathy, I'm sorry, can I just point out, I think it's also worth looking at the 2 site plans. It's important to note that the trees that are along the curbside are larger trees than those that were used when we were trying to do the screen. So
Yeah.
you can't necessarily just talk about the quantity of trees. I think people need to look at the plans, understand the species as well. So I agree with you that we should continue.
Okay. So are we all in agreement with continuing so that we can, and just to talk to the applicant, if we could just discuss and submit what the loading dock is going to look like, because we don't see that on it. And most of the times we do see that on all the plans that are submitted to us. So if you could come back for the next meeting on that, and then hopefully at that time we've met, or someone has met, or the neighbor has communicated back to Kathy Joubert with regards to our response to her question. And hopefully, Jeff, she will respond back to you as well. And then based on, I'm not saying that the committee is going to make a decision based on their input, but I just wanted her to understand, like Diana and Tom had mentioned, has she seen the latest rendering and all the work that you've done into it, which there have been several renderings along the way that she may not have seen, that this one may work for them. And then I also agree with Dave's questions, which is if there's a point at their house that it's visually they're concerned with, could they share that point from where they're looking from, and what are their concerns?
And you know, Michelle, to that very point, you know, perhaps it's, you know, a couple of evergreens that are needed to be placed on their property. You know, if it's something that, you know, as Tom and Diana were saying, you know, the building has evolved, and to the point where you don't want to cover it up now. So perhaps maybe there's a corner, or you know, she talked about at the planning board her sunroom. So you know, could that be a consideration? You know, maybe some outreach is done and from the applicant, and you know, is it you know, a couple of trees, couple of pine trees, or arborvitae, or something that, you know, gives her that blockage that she's looking for, as opposed to putting it all on this property.
Okay, it's a good idea. And Jeff, would you include that in your conversation with her when you talk to her, if she does reply back to you?
Sure, I can send another email reaching out to her, you know, relaying the message to her. So.
Okay. And Kathy and I can send another email as well. And at least if we don't hear back by the next meeting, at least we've made an attempt, several attempts to connect with the direct abutter. Okay, so how does is the applicant okay with meeting again? And if we can we try meeting within the next 2 weeks so we can wrap this up before you go back to the planning board meeting again?
I can work with Alok to come up with the dock and the door close to the dock, and sure. Michelle, do you have a time and a day for us?
Well, Wednesdays seem to be working well for us. I just wanted to check with the committee to see if, I'm sorry, Kathy.
I was just gonna say, Michelle, can I just, I'm off the week of the 10th, so selfishly, I'm looking at the week of the 3rd.
Okay,
And the planning board, although Wednesdays do seem to be working for us, on May 4th, the planning board has a rather full agenda. So I don't know what time we're gonna be there until tonight. I mean, till that night. So maybe looking at the 6th. Thursday, the 6th.
That's the only morning I can do that week, actually, the 6th.
Oh, that is, oh, okay.
I'm
okay,
fine with that.
okay, I'm good with that.
And then the applicant is back before the planning board on May 18th.
Okay, Lisa,
So-
are you good with the May 6th in the morning at 8
Yes.
a.m.?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, so we've got Diana's good. Dave, are you okay?
Yep.
Okay, myself, Tom, and Lisa. So the committee's all available. Jeff and Marshall and Alok, hopefully, are you guys available as well?
I am available. I have kids in the morning, so I will be here, maybe with a few helpers.
That's okay. They can see dad at work day, right? And so the takeaways from this meeting is you're going to work on the loading dock, right? You're going to work on what it looks like. You're going to be able to show us a visual. And if you feel like there's going to be any screening because those comments did come out from a couple of people, if they're good, and those are board members, if you feel like there's any screening needed, you'll take care of that. But if not, let's just see it on the building. And then Jeff and Marshall, you're going to reach out to the neighboring abutter and via email and a phone call, and Kathy Jubert will do as well. And hopefully those attempts will get a response, and then that neighboring abutter can see these renderings, and hopefully together we can come up with something to present for the planning board, the final draft.
Michelle, if I could just add here, I do know that I was copied on the email from Jeff to Ann offering to meet. So because we've not heard a response, if she or any member of her family is watching now, perhaps she could contact Jeff or me or even Kathy. Kathy knows how to reach out to us. Just to set a time. They clearly want to go and see what her view is that she's looking to protect, because with a loading dock, even though it would only be used extremely infrequently, if they want a little more density to block the view from their home of where a truck would back up and be at the loading dock, perhaps Dave could adjust and put a little more landscaping there to block it, even though it's going to be only, once every couple of months that they might see it. We want to work with them as opposed to saying, well, this is what we're going to do. We don't care about anyone. Obviously, Jeff does care about what they think.
No, I agree. And there were also some questions from board members as well. So if we can try and address those now, I think it'll help when we meet back again with the planning board. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. So I think we're good. Jim, we can, Jeff and Marshall and Alok are ready to go back to work for the day. And we'll see them on the 6th at 8 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Michelle, do you want to do the minutes? I don't know if people had a chance or not
Yeah.
to review them.
So the minutes, has everyone had a chance? What were the dates that you wanted to review, Kathy?
The dates were April 7th and March 30th. And I mean, of course, Lisa is on, but Lisa had sent me one change that she would like to make to the March
30th.
Yeah, to the March 30th. April 7th, we're okay, right, Lisa?
Yep.
Yeah, she didn't have any changes to April 7th, but March 30th. So I don't even want to have Lisa go over her change or,
Is everybody else prepared to do it now, or do you want to do it at the next meeting? It's up to you.
I read them and I was fine with both meetings, minutes.
Okay, how about you, Diana?
Yes, I'm fine with them as they're written.
Okay. All right, and Dave, are you okay?
Yep, I was good with both.
Okay, so Lisa, why don't you explain to us the changes to the minutes you'd like to make?
Okay, there's one quick one on page 3. When it talks about me questioning details for the door. I'm listed as a Mr. and not a Ms. So it's just taking an R and making it an S. It's an easy one. And the second one is on page 6. And it's this third paragraph where it goes, Ms. Gillespie asked the board members for input about the landscaping along Lyman Street. So the last sentence, I just wanted to get a little bit more detail, and it says right now, Ms. Maselli spoke favorably as well. It could be construed that I may have been favorable about the less excessive trees, as Diana mentioned. So at the 1.16.13 hour, I write 2 sets of trees. Kathy, can you write what I wrote? Can you say what I wrote to you?
yep. Yeah, you would like to be a bit more specific to say, Ms. Maselli liked the 2 sets of trees, noting that we are taking down so many trees all the time that it is always good to start planting new ones.
That's good. That's it.
And Lisa, you understand that there are 2 sets of trees out there now.
Yes, but
So
during
that's
that,
why you
that's,
voted favorably, yeah.
that was the last meeting. Today's meeting is a little different.
No,
So,
right now, today's meeting, there's 2 sets of trees.
And we had those last time
Yeah,
as well.
Right, this is for the 30th. This isn't for now. So this is just for the minutes of the 30th, before they changed it.
okay.
So that's all. I mean, it's just talking about
Yeah.
reiterating how every time I talk about a project, I want to get some trees back because we just keep taking more and more down and we don't replace them, and it's a worry.
Yep, okay,
So it's not a criticism as much as it is just doing the ecological thing.
okay. Is everyone in agreement to adding that in?
That's fine with me.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
fine.
Dave? Yep, okay, we're good with that.
All right, thank you.
So we'll need to have the committee someone submit, they're going to approve the minutes, and then we'll approve the minutes amended, the second set of minutes are amended.
So moved.
I second.
Okay? Dave? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Thank you. So Kathy, are you all set on both minutes now?
Yep, all set.
Okay, all right.
And, we'll go ahead and post the agenda for May 6th at
Yeah.
8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock. Okay, we'll see everybody then.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, have a good day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Okay.
Bye.